Now with lasting impression horsemanship. So the other yield that I'll do is the forward yield. So I'm just asking him to come forward off a feel of the halter. I want my horses super light. So I want them to come forward off of just the weight of this clip here. So if they feel me lift this clip here forward, this weight, they can feel that me adjusting this weight here, and I already want him moving forward off of me just putting a little feel on that rope. So he's still got like slack in it here, but he could feel that I was lifting this clip up. So he's actually a little hesitant about moving forward off of that. So he was a little bit reluctant. Normally, if I was working with him, I would have gotten after him a little bit more to be like, hey, or ask you to move forward by lifting this clip up here. I'm asking you to come forward. So I need you to be a little bit more quicker about your response of coming forward there. So if I were to sit here and be like, okay, keep going, keep coming, that is what I'm looking for with my forward yield here. And then I can go ahead and follow through by coaxing him forward with my stick behind here. And when I do it, I'm not going to put my energy up and down. Like if I have my string on here and go ahead and like snap my string up and down, I'm not going to do that. If I want him to move forward, I'm going to just lift that clip up there to go forward. And I'm either going to tap him under the belly, which is where my leg is going to be to get him moving forward here, or I will tap him behind this hock area and push him forward as well. And so I have to be aware of where my energy is telling him to go. That same thing goes with my body language. My shoulders, and the reason he keeps trying to look into me right now is because my body is in front of his shoulders and I need him to get his body, so my body's behind his shoulders. And you see how once I got my body in the right position here, he's now walking forward willingly and not trying to really look into me as much because my body's in the right position right now. But you see how I got him in, or my body in the right position, is I didn't move my body to get in the right position. I moved him to put my body in the right position. A lot of times what I find is people, they'll try and get their body in the right position, and the horse is thinking you're asking them to yield the hindquarters, and you can't get your body in the right position if you keep moving your feet. And if the horse keeps moving, then a lot of times what happens is the horse ends up like yielding his hindquarters like that. The person ends up doing more work than what the horse is, and it's just kind of a little bit of a mess. So always remember to try and limit the amount of movement your feet do. So if I'm going to ask him to come forward here, I'm going to ask him with just a light pressure here off of the clip, come forward. If he doesn't come forward, I'm going to just coax him so my body is behind his shoulder. Continue to ask him to come forward here and get him to move forward here off of a nice soft feel. And if I have him, and it's important to be able to teach your horse what it is to come off of a feel of your halters and stuff, because when horses have, if you have horses that have issues tying, that tells you that they don't have a quite very good understanding of what it means to come off of a feel of a halter or a rope or anything like that. So if you have a horse that'll sit back on a rope or something along those lines, they need to be taught what it means to come back up or to come forward off of pressure. And a lot of times the reason that they will set back is because the opposition reflex is kicking in. So if I were to ask him to come forward and I go like this, and if I were to continue pulling and pulling, have you ever gotten to the point where you're trying to get a horse to go on a horse trailer? They put on their brakes and they're sitting back as hard as they can, and you just keep pulling and pulling. That's opposition reflex kicking in. You're pulling them this way and they're just thinking automatically that nope, this is not right, and they're going to pull against you and fight you. It can also go the other way where you get them where they're tight in like an area and they will push through you. So they might try and like run you over as well. So that is part of that opposition reflex too that you have to be aware of, which is why that forequarter yield is very important. So when you're teaching them to do your forward yield like that and getting them to come off of a nice soft feel, I'm not going to increase my pressure here to get him to come forward. I need to keep this a nice soft feel for him to learn what it means to come forward off of this. Because if I just continue to pull harder and harder, I'm just going to get my horse to be heavier and heavier, the rope or halter or whatever it is that I'm using to tell him to come forward. So I need to just stick with the amount of pressure I want him to get used to coming forward off of. So when I got him, he had a hard time with the coming forward off of this feel. He didn't like to move forward. So he's gotten a lot better since I've gotten him and worked at this. And a really good exercise I like to do to help with this is it's a combination of all the yields that we've done so far. And what it is, I call it changing direction with a purpose. And I should probably just do this as a separate video, but I'll throw this in here. What I like to do, and this is why I'm going to put it in this episode, is because it goes and it teaches them to come forward off of this feel. So what I'm going to do is, again, I call this exercise changing direction with a purpose. So I'm going to have my body in the position where I need it. I'm going to have it where I'm fairly close to him. If I'm going to take my rope here, I'm going to change my hand, use my hand that's closest to his butt here. I'm going to put it on the rope here. I'm going to take it and I'm going to disengage his hindquarters. Lift this up, 1, 2, get 2 steps with his hindquarters at least. I'm going to open my door here, push him over with his front end, get him to disengage twice, 2 steps there. And then I'm going to ask him to come forward off of a nice soft feel there and ask him to keep walking forward. So that is a really nice exercise to do that incorporates your hindquarter yield, forequarter yield, and having them coming forward off of a soft feel there. And it makes them really think about what it is you're asking them to do, because they're crossing their feet over and they have to be aware of what their feet are doing and use that thinking portion of their brain and not be super reactive about everything. So again, I'll go ahead and do that again. I'm going to go ahead. Come on, Ty. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my body in the correct position. So he knows that he's not supposed to move, I'm just going to rub him. I'm going to go ahead and have my body at his shoulder. I'm going to use my rope here and I'm going to put it in my hand that's closest to his tail. So I'm going to go ahead here, put it closest to his tail. If I lift this rope up back towards his butt and his tail, I'm going to disengage his hindquarters 2 steps. And I'm going to look for this to be fully disengaged. 1, 2, and then I'm going to open my door. 3, 4, and then I'm going to ask him to come forward off a nice soft feel. Good boy. There you go. So that is a very nice exercise to do to get your horse just kind of thinking. It incorporates all the yields that you're doing as well, and being able to control their feet. And it's a really good one just to get them to learn to come forward off of that feel. And a lot of times what happens is I'll find people and they'll forget the whole coming forward part, and then they're just asking their horse for the hindquarter and forequarter yield, and they're just changing directions back and forth, and they're not asking for their horse to come forward. Well, this forward here is their reward for doing their yields correctly. So this is their reward for listening to what you've asked of them to do. So it's important to give your horse this forward reward and not keep asking them to do this yielding the hindquarters and forequarters and stuff. So again, this is the reward part. So it's just as important as what the other 2 steps of it are too, with the disengaging the hindquarters 2 steps. So see, okay, so this is a good example. What happens is he didn't fully disengage his hindquarters 2 steps. So instead of continuing on, I'm going to go ahead and stop what I'm doing, and I'm going to fix it and make sure he does it correctly. 1, 2, open the door, 3, 4, and then I'm going to have them come forward. Good. So if your horse screws up like that, that's perfectly fine. It happens. They get confused. They might screw up, step behind. They just might not have done a good job. Might be because your body was in the wrong position, everything like that. It's easy to do. It happens. But what I make it sure is it's important that the horse does it correctly then. So if my horse were to do it wrong like that, like he did, I just went back and I just corrected him. That's all I did, is I just went back and fixed everything there. All right. So that is forward yield, okay? Or just coming forward off a soft feel is basically what it is. So I apologize if I said forequarter yield, but what I'm talking about is the forward yield or coming forward off of a soft feel. So we will see you in the next clip, and that is going to be in backing. So thanks.